So I'm going to go ahead and let you just introduce yourself. And if you could first just give us a little background on how you got started.
Sure. So I've been a realtor for 19 years and just the last 8 with Keller Williams. And when I started my business 19 years ago, well, I shouldn't call it a business. When I got my real estate license 19 years ago, I was one of those dreaded part-time agents. And in my defense, so it's because I was getting married. I had a daughter that was 16, and I'd just taken a couple years off to take care of my father who had Alzheimer's. And so, I wasn't serious at all. And I was still doing okay. I mean, for a brand new agent. And then I had a tragedy in my family. My fiance was killed in a car accident a month before our wedding. And I had bought a house that he had gutted. And it was literally a frame and a bedroom and a bathroom.
Wow.
And he had passed away, and I didn't have that money, which we were going to use to finish the house. And I thought, well, I'm never going to get out of this debt that I'm going to need to finish this home and just make it livable, selling a house every now and again for $120,000, which was my top sale my first year. And that was my top. My average was like 99,000. I can remember being so mad that I didn't hit 100,000 as my average sale. But I thought, what the heck? What am I going to do? And I can kind of make light of it now, but it was a very serious situation. I had a kiddo going to college. I had this house. I couldn't even sell it. I mean, it was gutted, and contractors were showing up, and material was showing up, and people wanted to get paid, and I didn't have any money. And I literally wrote checks from your credit card statement. You know how you get credit cards with checks? That's how I paid my mortgage and ate and food, and I was devastated. So I was in bed all the time, depressed. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to work and sell more expensive houses. And how do I do that? And I didn't come from the country club, lifestyle growing up. I didn't know anybody with any money. So I just became a student. I buckled down. I was extremely intentional. I mean, I was desperate. So I had to, I was very focused, and I brought my average price point from 99,000 my first year to my second year, 410, to my third year, 800. Now this was 17 years ago, and that was the top of our market. So in 2 years, I went from 99,000 to the top 1% of my market with a lot of hard work and help from other agents were really good to me. And so now, 8 years ago, I decided to make the switch to Keller Williams for a variety of different reasons. And I've been at the top 1% in our luxury market. We actually have a third party and an independent party that sources everybody's settlement statements, and they come up with the top 1% of luxury. So that's sales over $1 million is analyzed, and they pick the top 25 of those agents. So I've been in that grouping for 15 years now, and really just learning how to build a business in the last 8 years with Keller Williams, so that I'm not just going from house to house to house, but I'm actually creating a business that I can sell, that I can have an exit strategy from. It's come from a lot of hard work, but also a lot of support from Keller Williams.
Wow, that's interesting how they sort the settlement statements and come up with that. That's really impressive. And then to go from your first year, thank you for being vulnerable and talking about where you started. I know there's probably a lot of agents on the call that are either thinking about luxury or are doing luxury, but maybe it's not as consistent. I mean, that's a really nice story that you shared. And then to stay in that top 1% consistently thereafter is very difficult. I've seen a lot of agents where they have that one luxury sale, and now what do I do with that? How do I build a business on that? And so that's really impressive to stay in that top 1%. So you more than qualify to be in the luxury division by far.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and I do think there's a great opportunity within our offices because I see so many people who have the right like tenacity. They want to raise their price point and get into luxury sales, and we're so lucky because we have all of the tools for that, in terms of systems and models. But way more important, in my opinion, is we have all the right people. There's always somebody to go to. I know when COVID started, Brandy and I hopped on a call. I was like, Brandy,
Yeah.
and that happens regularly. People call me, I call other people. So it is the people that make the difference. You can have all the tools and technology in the world, but at the end of it all, you have to have the right kind of value system from people wanting to support one another and learn and share and care. And it's so obvious to me when I am with this group. It's called Elite 25, and you can look it up, Elite 25 Austin. It's the website, elite25austin.com. And in fact, we have our virtual meeting right after this. So we meet every month, usually in person at a home. But oh my gosh, it is so incredibly, it's like night and day because it's more competitive there, not collaborative. And when I look around the room and I see these people, some of which have been in business for longer than me, but they're working harder than I am. They have not created a business. The last home they sell will be the last dollar they make.
Wow.
And sometimes they look at me like I have two heads because I'm talking about leverage and my director of sales, and every time I'm on a trip, like we were talking when this started, usually I'm gone all of August, I'm usually gone all of January, and that's not counting all the other trips that we do. I own part of the KW Market Center in Cabo, so I go down there occasionally, for work. And so I'm gone a lot, and they're always the ones commenting on Facebook, how do you leave your business for a month? Well, it's because I've created a business and I'm not just selling houses. And I wouldn't know any of that if I hadn't had the leap of faith to move over to Keller Williams and be vulnerable there. Because remember, I'm coming in as a top agent into KW, and I had to be very vulnerable and be coachable to learning how to do things that I was not doing before. And I was at the top one. It's hard to like give up and make a change when you're doing good, but I wanted to do great. And I wanted to create something. I wanted to create a business. And so that's the decision I made, and it's been the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah. And, I know we have a list of things to discuss, but I just want to touch on one thing before we move on. You're describing exactly what we see in the Sarasota market, where the top agents, they're selling at, whatever, there's no real exit strategy. Mm-hmm. So they're still working in their business and not on their business. And some of them do have admin that support them, but I don't think they're creating a vision for their team. And those team members are just that, a lot of them are just the support. So they don't have anything for a legacy for them or themselves. And so what does that look like? Can they really sell their business? Maybe, but I don't think they've thought about that. They haven't had anyone around them even have those conversations. And they are working every single day, working very, very hard. I see that a lot in our industry here. And then you touched on those networking groups. I think that's really important to, even if it's a competitive environment, to really know what's going on with your competition. I belong to two. One is called Apex Elite, and then the other one's Echelon. And the Echelon group we've had for 15 years, and I've done so many deals with those agents in that group, and it makes it easier. And those relationships are built over time, and even though they're with different companies. So I think that's really important. So thank you for touching on those.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Jeannette Spinelli, the legend here. I've looked up to Jeannette for a really long time. So anytime I get a chance at a networking event, whether it's a Keller Williams Realty International event, or if we do our own thing, which we've done before, it's really, really amazing to just pick your brain. I think you set yourself apart and differentiate yourself even within a lot of the KW luxury agents in Austin. And I have a lot of friends that sell in that market. Tell us how you set yourself apart in such a competitive market. What a couple of things that you do differently?
I think it starts with the foundation of creating the business in the sense of hiring the talented people, being willing to give up profit to pay for that talent. And really, we make it's on our calendar. We make it a point every month. We get together, all of my admin, I have 5. So we get together and we deconstruct everything we're doing. It's almost like a mid-year or a year-end, powwow where you're kind of going over from A to Z. We do it every month. We kind of deconstruct everything and figure out how can we elevate our interactions with our clients, our processes within the team, the systems we use to serve our clients, ourselves, and our community. And we're very, very serious. Dissecting it like step by step. We always are able to find ways to improve. And we really talk to each other about, what is our specialization? And how can we contrast? Because we believe how we contrast is way more important than how we compare. A lot of people do similar things, but what can we do to really stand out? And, we also think more about who we're targeting. Do we need to change our targets? Of course, you're always nurturing your database. But database can time themselves out. I work with a lot of people who are in their 60s now, and we're getting them second homes, and they're downsizing here, but they're not moving at the same velocity as they used to. So I think you have to constantly be bringing in new business. So we may be retargeting a different niche of the market. And from those exercises, sometimes we do that exercise and, we change a little thing here or there. Other times we come up with something really big. And from those exercises, we've come up with things like our video books, which we use for Expired and Withdrawals. No one in town uses those. And that's simply, you've probably seen, KW has like a video book for sure. Luxury. So we have that, but just about us. It breaks down why us, from marketing to our value proposition, and it features different agents. From that to how we're going to choreograph a showing, because most of our high-end appointments are with agent. So we've broken that down to a science. We've changed the weight of our note cards. We've broken down how to make our pricing defensible. That's something that we just went over last week, because things are selling for higher and higher right now. I'm sure you all are experiencing the same thing with multiple offers. And when we go to list something, we want to make sure our price is defensible, so that instantly we're able to share with the buyer's agent the justification for this price, and it's very detailed. You can almost hand it to the appraiser and their job is done. That's what we want from that. We also, through that dissection, came up with what we call departure and arrival service, which is really a concierge service for your buyer and your seller. So we're closing on a property later today, and that refrigerator is completely stocked with everything that we've been able to kind of, secretly pull out of conversations with our clients, from the dog's favorite treats to what kids like to eat. And they're going to walk in not just with a basket of toilet paper and paper towels and box cutter and trash bags, which everybody needs when they're moving. If you've moved lately, those are all vital for when you're moving. Not just that, but really things specific to the client, so that their move is easy. Right down to the seller, we offer them what we call departure service. So we're going to send a crew of people over there to help them declutter, to prepare for staging, or help them pack, or haul things off to the junkyard, or we've taken dogs to doggy daycare to get them out of the house the first couple of days of showing. It's really anything that they need. We always say we employ magic. If it's not illegal, if it's not immoral or unethical, we will do it. The answer to everything begins with a Y and it ends with an S. And it's really, we're just figuring out how. Sometimes we can't even take on the project, the pain point that the client has, and we have to actually call in a concierge service, which we have here. I'm sure you have them in Florida. For example, a few weeks ago, we had to figure out how to transport someone's vintage car to Michigan, where they were moving. I don't know how to do that, and I'm not going to drive the car. So we had to make calls. We took care of the logistics of it. So it goes well beyond just selling their house or helping them find a new one.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a higher level of service. And I love that it, begins with a Y and ends with a yes. So yes, we can do that within legal and ethical realms. The answer is always yes. And then figure it out. And then now in the future, how to do that. So yes, I love that. So obviously COVID is here. You've been dealing with that. What have you done in the environment of a pandemic? And how have you adjusted your business or shifted that business? There has to be some significant things that you've done. And I know we talked at the beginning of COVID, and I'm sure a lot's changed since then, and we've spoken a few times during the process. But how are you thriving, and what did you do to adjust?
Well, I have to thank you, because I think when you and I first talked at the beginning, I was like freaking out. I mean, that's the only
a little bit.
And you brought me down, and you really calmed me, which enabled, when you're stressed like that, you can't think.
Right.
And so you calmed me down, and then I was able to sit here logically and say, okay, what are we going to do? And it occurred to me that in luxury, we were the best poised to take on a situation like this, because we've always been about being preemptive and proactive. We've always had a consultative approach. We're not just selling, it's not just about volume, selling house after house after house. And so we were really ready to just, have more time to do what we already knew we should be doing, which was to over communicate and really be there to help the client before a need even arose. So I really have to say that we didn't have an epiphany like, oh my gosh, we're going to start doing this. We knew everything we should do. It's just when you get busy and you've got, $30 million pending, and 4 more buyers coming into town, that week, you're putting out that particular fire, and sometimes it's all hands on deck. And I'll be the first to say that we would, have little holes in our system that we had so carefully crafted. And while we were slower, we had time to really implement that, and on a more personal level. So it wasn't high tech. It was simply picking up the phone. I think it was really time for over communication. And of course, the clients were craving that interaction. But also the market was like, things were happening. It went from busy to dead, and then almost as quickly busy again. And I really am so grateful that I had people like Brandy and other people that I reached out to, and that there was the collaboration with KW, with our groups within KW, to really put our mind to how are we going to handle this next, and we didn't know how long, right? But it ended up in our market being 6 weeks, because I was immediately in action with reaching out to clients first from, are you doing okay? It really was our only call, just as client care calls. I'm sure you've heard other people mention. And we did a lot of note writing. Are you okay? again, very old fashioned. But what that enabled us to do is when the phone did start ringing a little bit, and we were watching our MLS every day, how many things listed, how many things went pending, constantly we were watching it. When we started seeing a little bit of a shift, because for 6 weeks nothing was, under 600,000 never stopped in our market,
Right.
but the 2 million, which is our average, was dead. And so when we started seeing some movement, we were able to pick up that phone and be a little more, I would say, pushy. I don't like that word, but that's what's popping into my head right now. Because we had already called them and said, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Now it paved the way. We didn't ignore them for 6 weeks while people were, fighting over toilet paper and wondering, if they were going to be healthy and worried about their family. We were checking on them. In fact, we were taking things to people. We, I found a place for people to get tested right away because I had some doctor clients, those type of things. We did a lot of community outreach. We donated a lot, money and time. We did some food drive, all in kind of that 6 week period. And we put it out there on social media. Of course, it benefits us because it's good PR, but also we were getting the community involved. We even did a social media site. I think it was called Support 512, which is our area code. And we had different businesses post on there what they needed, how they were doing, if people could order online, how they were shifting. We supported a lot of businesses. So when we turned around and the market was shifting and we said, hey, this is a good time, there's no inventory. I know you thought about selling your house next year. How about now? It wasn't just about us. We had already demonstrated our passion for caring about them. And also during that 6 week period, we consulted with our clients about their lives from a financial standpoint too. And it's not too late for that. I think this is just an approach in general, is we really to have the time. Again, it went back to having a little bit more time on those calls, because my normal 5-minute touching base call was 45 minutes. Every time I got on the phone, it was 45 minutes. I had plotted out, I'm going to call 30 people a day, and it ended up being like 5. Because
we had big goals to do that.
it got to be so in depth, and it was so good because we really were able to consult with them. And what I mean by that is we learned more about our clients, like big picture. People were talking about the future, like, I thought I was going to retire in 5 years. Now it might be 2. I thought I was going to buy a vacation home in a few years. I think we're going to be splitting our time. Those things came up in conversations. I was just entering all that information into my CRM as fast as I could. So when I went back to make those calls, I've been able to sell ranches that people thought they would have in 4 or 5 years. And I've been able to send referrals to Colorado, or, because people wanted second homes. They wanted to shift money out of the market for investment properties. Their kids were going off to college. They wanted to buy student condos. I was able to kind of really reinforce kind of a mantra of mine for many, many years, which is to earn your seat at the table with your clients alongside their financial planner, their stockbroker, their accountant. Because just think about it, guys, we have such an opportunity. We're invited into people's lives to help transact sometimes the biggest exchange of wealth that they'll ever encounter. We, of course, are their fiduciary in helping them make those decisions of what they're going to buy or sell. But to me, that's like the bare minimum, right? That's what everyone should be doing. When you're dealing with a more affluent client, even anyone with disposable income, you are also enabled to advise them on their entire portfolio. And you should be in those conversations when they're having those meetings with their estate planner or their accountant of how to diversify or how to protect wealth and how to make their dreams into a reality. You are that conduit. But you have to show up as that expert. So that means you've got to know more about what's happening in your neighborhood. You need to go to places like WealthX or the White Pages or the Frank Knight Report and be a student all the time so that you can have the lingo, you can be up to speed aside from your local paper, read your business journal, like really get into relationships with accountants and estate planners so that you can understand their lingo, because they're going to respect that. They're going to send you referrals as well. But more importantly, your client base that you already have, they should be looking at you as their go-to, their consultant for everything that is going on in their lives, particularly what they're doing with their money.
Well, we're right in the heart of that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're right in the heart of it. I mean, you answered my next question, how do you consult and advise versus selling, right? And we are right alongside with their financial advisor, their CPA, their attorney, right? Setting up their trust. All of those things we have to be super knowledgeable in. We're not experts in those other areas, but when we're working alongside with their team, when in regard to their money, even their stockbroker, whoever that is, with their financial planning, every single step of the way, if you know that you're in conversation with those people right alongside with your client, that they've trusted you on the same level, if not more, because they usually have a lot of money in real estate at that level, how it's an honor and a privilege to even be a part of that conversation with the team. But you have to understand what those other people do, so that there's a mutual respect in addition to the mutual respect your client has with you.
Absolutely. And so when we talk about COVID, I think, it continues to be that opportunity. I don't think the window of opportunity has closed on that. I don't know what's happening in your market, but here a lot of people are making decisions that they thought they might be doing in 2 or 3 years. So we're selling more second homes, we're selling more investment property, and into people that I would have never thought would be interested in investment property. But it really enables you to kind of take your client base, and they already know you, they love you, they trust you. So you have a leg up over any of your competition with them, but you can take that client base and be of service to them and help place them in the right investment properties or second homes, even that may throw off income, because they're already receptive to your opinion. And it just comes from starting to plant seeds, but also starts with understanding your client. So COVID has really given me more time, and I had to decide what I was going to do with that time. So a lot of people I saw on Facebook, a lot of people were taking long walks with their dog, and I did that too, and spending more time with their family. But as it's turned out, it's been like a little too much time. I decided, I still had to be disciplined in this moment, and I had to really understand the market of the moment and be kind of receptive to that. There wasn't the opportunity during COVID to push a seller into listing their home if that particular market was not moving. So we made a conscious shift to go after some lower priced business. And I never, I didn't naturally get calls to list or work with a buyer at 300,000 and 600,000. That just wasn't our niche. But having survived and thrived after 9/11, because I was early in the business then, and having survived and really thrived after 2008, I knew that we had to shift our focus, our price point focus. And I think the first listing I took during COVID was a $250,000 listing. Now, that's less money than most of my clients use as a down payment. But it wasn't beneath me. My team saw that. And they, you could tell they paid attention and they responded, and they weren't turning away leases anymore. Like they were doing whatever it took. And we're so fortunate. I think just, we were blessed to be in this market, but also fortunate from the respect that we recognized through the education we were getting at KW and the groups and people like Brandy and the individuals that I talked to, that we needed to get busy right away. We didn't waste any time. I didn't learn to play the guitar or, teach Kevin how to color my hair, any of those things. Like we were working. I mean, I was busier. Within 2 weeks of figuring it out, I was just as busy. I was here at my home office at 7 a.m. working all day on whatever it took, and primarily leading with really getting to know my clients and what their needs were. And when they were comfortable, bam, I've got more business and I'm pulling my hair out. I have not stopped in months. And of course my family is like, shouldn't you have more balance? And I'm like, I just don't know what next year's going to be like. And this is part of my message to my clients is I don't know what next year is going to be like. I mean, rates go up, the market may tank. Anytime after a presidential election, I don't care who you're for or against, there's always a little bit of a pause. So, and that's what I tell my clients. I don't know what's going to happen next year. And anyone who says they do is not, being truthful. But I can tell you exactly what's happening right now. And right now, inventory is low. Buyers are out there. Rates are very low. It is the time to sell your house. And I'll happily list it next spring. But the numbers we're talking about now, it may not be a natural progression of appreciation. We're pretty high in our numbers right now. Our pricing is trading at a very high level. And I don't know how long that's going to continue. But I know about today. So let's get going today. And I'm able to be, as I started on this segment saying, I'm able to be a little more pushy because I've already demonstrated to them that I'm not leading with that. There's a great book called Leading with a Noble Purpose. Her name's Lisa McLeod, I think. Lisa McLeod. And she talks about a meaning story versus a money story. And a money story is obvious. I mean, you're just going after the dough, right? But the meaning story is really to integrate with your client about who they are, what they are, and what they need. And we're doing that work. We've always done that work, but during COVID, we really got granular with people, and it's paid off. And we'll continue to do that. We have it time blocked in our calendars now. It's part of our 411. We can see the payoff, not just from a profit standpoint, and we all are here to make money, so we can't lose sight of that. But the payoff for the client, and people are seeing their dreams realized with being able to purchase these second homes, or moving their parents. I've done a lot of moving parents to Austin that were farther away because people were afraid of their parents' health. So those were plans 2 or 3 years down the road. And a lot of people just couldn't figure out if they could do it or how they could do it. And it's our jobs to show them that they can do it and to do it for them, to make that road easy.
I think that's been the biggest thing is people are looking to us for more guidance than ever. So, we have no idea, like you said, next year what's going to happen. And I am watching a lot of agents that just think that the market's going to stay this way. And that's great. We would love for it to, and we need to prepare for something different next year. There's a lot of variables, like you said, with the election, who knows when COVID's going to be over. So we definitely need to be able to guide our clients to the best of our ability to make the best decisions. And right now that inventory is super low and there's a huge opportunity to help them increase their net worth. So I know you had some topics you wanted to, I thank you for letting me ask you questions. I hope that was helpful for everyone listening. Now, I know that you wanted to touch on some subjects. Speaking of net worth, you do work with a high net, ultra high net and high net worth individuals. I know you have a couple bullet points and topics and some things you want to share in a PowerPoint. Are you ready to dive into that?
Yeah, yes. I'll just start by saying that usually when I get calls from people, they're always asking me about marketing. You know, everybody wants to know, what do you do for marketing? What do you do for events? And so I wanted to share some of that with you. But before I do that, I wanted to say that, you know, I'm sure people on this call are at different price points. You know, luxury exists in every single city at different price points, right? And I don't know what your average price point is, but I wanted to kind of demystify the idea of the luxury agent, because I've already told you, I did not, I mean, I grew up in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. You know, I didn't have any money, I didn't divorce any money. I didn't get any money when Rod passed away. I did not, that is not my world. But for those of you who, you know, I also get this question, you know, could I sell at a higher price point? I hate to even use the word luxury because I think it does create this vision in people's minds. And high net worth clients aren't always in Lear jets, you know, dripping with jewels. Sometimes they just look like my last billionaire client who was wearing basketball shorts and a wife beater shirt. So, you know, it can look all different, right? But the agent can be all different too. You don't have to be wealthy to work with a luxury client, but you do need to be knowledgeable. I mentioned a couple sources for you all earlier, so I'll repeat those so you can take them down. You know, WealthX, which actually you can get through your luxury division for free. If you're not part of the luxury division, it's a bit of a cost, but there's a lot of fantastic information in there. There's a podcast called The Luxury Institute. There's the Luxury Divine White Pages. There's the Frank Knight Report. And they talk a lot about a lot of things globally, but I think it's a good place for you to at least get some language down and have a resource to up your game and increase your skill set so that when opportunity knocks, you are able to, you know, grasp it. I mean, anybody can get lucky every once in a while with a big client that you are able to gain their trust and close, but luck isn't a strategy, but learning is a strategy. So if you can put that in your plan, your growth plan on how to think about attracting and servicing just the next price point up. So, you know, just look at your average price point and dedicate yourself to increasing it by 20%. And then whatever that number is, where is that in your market? Is there a neighborhood that's connected to another neighborhood you're already working? Like, how can you start working that neighborhood? Can you start doing open houses there? Is there, you know, a venue for you to be able to get into that niche? I wouldn't think of it as I'm selling $600,000 houses and now I want to sell $2 million. That is daunting. Just a methodical plan for moving your price point up. Anyone can tackle that, and just know that as your price point moves up, you know, these clients, they pride themselves in being educated. They followed financial trends. A lot of more of them are self-made. Kind of the generational wealth in some areas in the U.S. is kind of waning. So they respect people also that are self-made. That's why you don't have to feel like, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, so I can't work with luxury. That's not true. I think it's also a very interesting fact that it's skewing more towards female. Mm-hmm. Females are more likely to have real estate in their portfolio before men, and more of it as they mature. So, you know, remember that, and also that luxury clients just they do expect to be catered to. You have to want to do that. They expect a convenient experience, kind of a consistent experience, a memorable experience, and so you have to start adjusting what you're doing to be able to support that. So one thing I wanted to show you, and let's see if I can make this.
while you're pulling that up, I do want to comment with the females kind of taking over a little bit when it comes to owning real estate. One of my wealthiest clients, when we first went out on showings, all of the realtors, male and female, were directing the conversation to the husband. And so I finally had to pull the realtors aside and politely say, you know, you're going to unfortunately go down the wrong path if you keep addressing the male. She's the CEO of a major company, a global company, and this is basically, and it's her decision. And he was an attorney, the husband, you know, does quite well, but not the same as what she does. And this was a purchase that she really wanted. So they just kind of looked at me shockingly, and I'm like, well, that's what's going on. So you're addressing the wrong person. So.
Definitely, that'll lose you. And even if she's not the decision maker, it's not polite.
It's not polite. Yeah.
It's
so
not
just
polite.
Be mindful of how you're kind of approaching people.
Yeah, definitely. So I pulled together a couple slides. This is from a class that I teach, Lead with Luxury, and it's a 5-part class, and this is the 5th section of that, and it's the most popular of the 5. Some of the other sections are like meatier technically. This is the section everybody gravitates to, and it's really just a section about service, about, we call it the infinite experience, and it was really based on a book called oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting it, The Infinite Experience, The Infinite Game. It'll come to me. But it was really.
Was that Simon Sinek? Or?
No. Simon Sinek is The Infinite Game. No, it'll come to me. I'm having a 55-year-old moment. But it's really, it was based on the power of moments. The power of moments. That is a great book to read. It's not written for real estate, but it applies to real estate perfectly. And this is from that book, and it really talks about peak moments that matter. And there's been a lot of study done that you're 9 times more likely to kind of facilitate a transaction, get a deal closed in real estate world if you are able to fill in any pits that there are in a transaction, and also highlight moments in a transaction. And we call them milestones and transitions. And so being able to elevate those and that client experience is very, very important. People like to be connected to you when you are part of a highlight in their life. And real estate just blends so well into this, because think about it. You've got people who are getting married, buying their first home, having a baby, needing a bigger home. Children are going off to college, they're selling the home and leaving those memories. Getting the vacation home, like we've already talked about. These are major milestones in people's lives, and you are right there. And so you got to take advantage of that opportunity and connect yourself with the emotion. There's a ton of science on this that we don't have time to go into, but take my word for it. It's like glue. And so we identified places to find moments. And these are just some that we've come up with. There's, I think, 8 here. Throughout the listing agreement or the sales agreement, but you can choose anything. I mean, we even have a power of moments for after closing, like closing day, moving day, a week after, anniversary. You can see how that all works. The first summer at their pool, their first Christmas. So you can create this power moments in any situation. This comes from deconstructing, like we talked about before with my group. Admin, you need your admin into those conversations because they're integrating this a lot. So it's just finding these different moments that work for you in your market. I did a little slide that shows, like, here's a pet thing. Obviously, flowers are easy. And I don't know how big you can make this screen, but you can have great ideas, but if they're just thoughts and you can't put them into action, they don't work, right? So my phenomenal director of ops put this power of moments form on You probably can't see this, but it's on my, it says
Oh,
Power.
I love that.
It's on my phone. So it's just an app right here.
Okay.
So it comes up, and in here it says, you know, which agent is this? Is this for a buyer or seller? What's their information? What would you like to do for them? Where would you like it delivered? What is the message? And that's done in Contigo Forms. Contigo Forms is the technology. We also have our buyer intake and our seller intake forms on that on our phones. These are our buyer intake.
We're using Google Forms. I love that you have this as an app, because if the agents are out in the field, I mean, sometimes even into Google Drive, even if it's an app, it's like finding it. So I love this.
Exactly. And that came from COVID, because we had all this done, but I would have to go, you know, I would email my director of ops, hey, remind me to send Sinclair Avenue a power of moment. And then she'd have to remember. And then the moment is gone, because this is a moment. Like, it is timely.
Get right in.
So now, no excuse. I go here. I can, at a red light, you know, send a power of moment. So I think it's important to have things like this so that you are touching them. Again, high net worth people, they like, you know, think of Neiman's versus, I don't know what your kind of, you know, local department store is, but, you know, think of how people are treated when they walk into the Bentley dealership versus, you know, the Volkswagen. Nothing wrong with the Volkswagen, but it's just a different level of service. So it's a different client, and their expectations are different. They surround themselves with people who cater to them. And, you know, you have to do that too. So this is one example. Another example is we put together this vendor concierge book. It's like it's a hard covered book. Anything that anyone can think of is in this book, in and outside of someone's home.
Love that.
They are delivered this when they close on a property. We also make this digital because we change it. You know, if somebody's not up to par, if they've disappointed somebody, we take them out at one strike, and they know it. And everyone in this book, every vendor in this book knows they're in this book. They get a book. We give them a couple of copies. We do soft bounds for them, because, I mean, hard bounds expensive. We give them a couple of copies. Obviously, we're expecting, you know, to be remembered when they hear of somebody needing to buy or sell or invest in a home. So there's a reciprocal relationship there too. This is great. I think you all kind of do some short-term rentals in your market. A lot of them. So we put these in our client who owns the short-term rental, it's a copy stays in there, and we've got a little thing that says, please do not remove this, you know, don't take this book with you.
Right. Leave this in the
it has a full page about us, and we get a lot of calls. Our short-term rental market's not as huge. We're not as much of a resort market as you are, but you have a whole page in there. Of course, it's the restaurants to go to, and if you need a doctor and all that kind of stuff. But there's information about you, your company, with your phone number, your contact information. We've sold properties to people this way.
I love this. You're giving me so many ideas, because we have something which is called a relocation guide that we're rebranding right now with our marketing company, but to put it in a book, all that same information into our seasonal rentals. That's okay. Keep going. Sorry. I love this.
Yeah. And then I like to encourage agents to think about their marketing in just the way they do business as experiential marketing. And this is a thing, like you can look this up. And experiential marketing is just about the experience. It's directly about the experience. And this applies to us. It's from the interaction when you're meeting someone at the grocery store to, you can do it at a really high level with an open house. You know, for example, it's hot as heck here. So when we do open houses, we take little white washcloths, we dip them in, you know, lavender water, we roll them up like you do if you're on a trip and you go to a resort. It's on a silver platter. We've got tongs, and we offer them to the people as they're walking in. Now that stands out. They're going to a lot of open houses. How many people have done that? If it's cold, we've got artisanal tea, you know, from a local tea maker. Again, beautiful Spinelli residential cups. We tell them, take the cup with you. It's about service, but it's about the experience. How are you touring them through the home? Are your signs clean? What are they hearing? What are they smelling? It's all emotional currency that you are putting together so that you stand out, because we've got 12,000 licensed realtors in Austin, Texas. I mean, why you? You may have all this knowledge in your head, but until they get to know you, they don't know that. People make a judgment about you in a few seconds. So you've got to make an impact. And by the way, a little shameless plug. I'm going to put a link to my class. I think I can put it in here in the chat somehow or another. I'll figure that out. Because all this comes from this class that I teach, and we go into much, much more detail. And then the last thing, I don't know where your chat box is, maybe I'm missing it, but the last thing that I'll share with you is this.
And I can always get anything over to the roster that's on here.
Okay, yeah, I'll forward this link to you. But if this is of interest, because of course in the class we go into an hour on pricing and an hour just on buyers and sellers. So it's worth it. I really believe that it will elevate your business. But this is how I close the class. 9 means to everlasting business. And this is what we work off of and live by. This is, up on our wall. And it begins with start off as you intend to carry on. Like whatever way that you want to interact with your client, you've got to be ready from the beginning. And you've got to be intentional about how you're going to service that client, how you're going to show up with them, how responsive you're going to be. You've got to set that bar high and keep it high. Go deep rather than wide. And I think this is very applicable in luxury. If you're moving your business into luxury, it's very difficult to do a lot of volume unless you hire a lot of people, but to do a lot of volume in the beginning, because your relationships are very deep. And we've talked about that a few times today. You are spending a lot of time with that client. The houses are bigger. By virtue of that, they're more complex. So your relationships are going deeper. I've always believed that luxury is more about the depths of the relationship and not about the number of relationships. Be prepared to do the work. Like we touched on this. You have to constantly be a student, because the market changes. I mean, look at how different things are from a few months ago or last year. So you need to be prepared to kind of roll up your sleeves. I think a lot of people believe, a lot of non-real estate people believe, oh, real estate's so easy. You open up pretty doors all day long, and I want to do that. And it is fun, and it's rewarding if you've prepared yourself. And luxury even moreover, because the people you're dealing with, they didn't get $4 million to spend on a house by being mediocre. They operate at the top of their game, and they surround themselves with people that operate at the top of their game. Communicate, anticipate needs, and have solutions. This goes back to being proactive, being preemptive. If they reach out to you before you reach out to them, you have lost. You've lost. I mean, you've lost a lot of ground. You might be able to catch that up, but why play catch up when you can be moving the ball forward and elevating? Again, over deliver. I don't believe in under promising and over delivering. Just over deliver, period. I mean, it's just the way it should be. Always be learning, as we've discussed. Give without expectations. And again, that, sometimes it can be, I have to admit, it can be a little frustrating. Like I'm juggling clients and I'm working on big things, and a client calls and says, do you know a caterer that can get to my house in 3 days? I'm like, yes. Remember the answer? Begins with Y and ends with S. Yes, I do. And I got to stop for a second. Of course, I've got admin, so I have some leverage and can get some help, but give of your time, give of your resources, give of your knowledge. if they're reaching out to you, that's great. They see you as a resource. And so, sometimes I've got to grit my teeth, but give to them without any expectation. You will get more in return. And then it really empower those around you. And if you think of this from the sense of your market center, be sharing with each other, be helping each other, be making each other look good, in all aspects, and even outside of your brokerage. Make it easy for agents to see your properties. Make your materials informative, so they're not like digging and they look informed if they have the right information, right? And I'll tell you what, another little thing I always do that other agents comment on all the time is if I'm meeting, if it's an appointment with agent, I'm sure you have those, and I'm meeting the buyer and their prospect with them. I always say to the buyer, you are in great hands to have, Brandy working with you. She's such an expert, you've chosen well to be working with such an elite agent such as Brandy. There may be times where the agent on the other side, you're struggling to think of something nice to say about them, but you'll find something if you try hard.
You compliment them in whatever that is. They have a strength.
It is. I all the time will get a text and say, that was so nice, or thank you so much. So, empower the people around your close circle and further out. And again, going back to creating that moment for your clients, it is, like Brandy said, an honor and a privilege to work with people in their homes, the most personal space, particularly now. They're entrusting you to come into their house when potentially exposure to somebody could kill them, and they're letting Linda and David and Richard and they're saying, come on in, Stephen, come into my house. That is huge. And you're dealing with their money. So I always, when I got to get out of the car to meet someone or go into a listing appointment, I always kind of repeat that in my head. It's an honor and a privilege. And it really is. I think if you approach this business in that way, not what they can do for you, but what you can do for them, you'll never have to worry about a paycheck.
I love that. Yeah, I've always, told people when you do get a listing appointment, whether it was an expire call, referral, no matter what, thank the person that referred it, show them something, give them a gift, something. Same thing when you're entering the home. You might not get the listing, but just thank them for allowing you in their home. Don't show up empty-handed. You wouldn't do that if your friend invited you over for dinner, right? You would have a bottle of wine or coffee or whatever it is that you know about that person. So we try to bring something neutral. It's usually coffee in our little coffee mugs or some sort of small gift that just is like, thank you so much, for just letting me sit at your dining room table. I mean, that's what they invite their friends to do. We don't know them that well, typically, even on a referral. It'd be someone you're just meeting. So, okay, well, we have a couple of minutes. Any questions that maybe we can get to a couple of those in the chat box, or if anyone wants to come off mute?
Oh, here, and I just figured out where your chat box were. So that's the link if you guys are interested in that class. But yeah, any questions about, and I find sometimes people are a little nervous about asking questions in a group. So feel free to call me. I'll give you my phone number here. I do a lot of these calls, and the reason that I do it is because people were very good to me when I started in this business. And without that, I don't know what would have happened to me.
Yeah, no, and I think like if you are in a market center where there is someone that specializes in luxury, I always say, and just even being an OP, I always tell the agents, don't try and go at it alone the first time if it's a really high dollar listing. It's so much better to co-list and share that so that you can learn from others. And that, that helped me in the beginning, and I wasn't even with Keller Williams.
Yeah, and I'll say about that too, I do a lot of co-listings, and I always, be sure that everyone understands responsibilities and how the money works, of course, so there's no problems down the road. But I always invite the agent that I'm co-listing with to come into our office and sit down with our marketing person while they're working on that property and learn, and allow them to even come and sit in one of our meetings. That's part of the exchange, I feel, and you'd be surprised at how few people take me up on it.
Wow, I would sit in your office all day long. Even if you weren't there and the marketing person was there, I would take full advantage of your stuff. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, we all have something to learn. I don't care. I've sold $1 billion of real estate, and I did not do that in a bubble. I did that because I was always receptive and willing to say, I don't know, or can you help me? Or, wow, I really admire how you did that. Can you show me how I can implement that? And I think you always have to be humble.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've learned so much from you, not just on this call, but every encounter, every conference, every class, every mastermind I've been in with you. You are the first person to share. So I really appreciate that. And I'm continuing today to learn. Okay, so it looks like people are just asking if this was recorded. Yes, it is being recorded. I believe Ashley will send that out. Any other questions? I know Jeannette has another call you're going to do with your team, you said. So any other questions before we let her go?
Yeah, I got a question for you.
Okay, great. Christopher.
In regards to marketing, what would you say your best marketing strategy would be outside of a broker's open and obviously pricing the property correctly?
My best marketing strategy, and this is very old-fashioned, is just picking up the phone and calling other agents in my market. I mean, I always say that if somebody told me you can only have one tool, what would it be? I would give up the internet. I would give up social media, but I would not give up my ability to call my colleagues. And I don't know about you all, but I'm inundated with marketing pieces mailed to me, delivered in a cute package, e-blasts, social media. I mean, we've got so many Facebook groups, and you miss important things. But for me, I look at the property, I decide, who I think the most likely buyer is, who in my market works with those buyers. Sometimes it's not in my market, it might be a feeder market. It might be and this goes back to really knowing your other agents, right? And I kind of figure out who is the best person. I said we've got 12,000 licensed people in the city, so I can't reach every single one. But we might easily, between me and my admin, might easily call 200 or 300 agents for a particular property. So I might look to see who in the past few years has been selling in that neighborhood or that price point, who's been representing buyers in that neighborhood and that price point. I'll pick up the phone. I'll make the call. If they don't answer, I'll tell them, I'm sending you something right now. Please take a look at it. We'll send it in a text. We'll send it in an email. But they got that call. And so they're more, I think, receptive and appreciative. And I think they feel a little guilty if they just delete it. If I've actually phoned them first to say it's there. And of course, I'll use that time to give them, a little elevator pitch on that property. But I would do that before, posting it on the internet or making sure it's enhanced on Zillow or any of those things, because I know who's working in my market. I know who's closing the deals. I know who works this particular neighborhood.
I think that goes back, though, Jeannette, like you were saying, when you're on a list or a company showing and you're complimenting the other agent, you've built these relationships. So when you do call, they pick up the phone. But if you're not doing that on the showings and you just open the door or you look at them as competition and, oh, I could be selling this myself. I mean, that's a whole nother vibe you're putting out. Your energy is not the same. You're not building the rapport. You're not speaking with those agents at the networking groups you belong to. So you have that ability when you've built the relationships to call them very easily and for them to be receptive to taking a call. And it's like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know if we have any other questions. It's 1:06. I want to be mindful and respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't
Thank
see
you all for having me. Come see me in Austin when you can.
I cannot wait more than ever. You know I love Austin, and you know I love you, but especially right now, I miss you and Austin more than ever. So love you much, and thank you for sharing. Again, I've got my team behind me here. I hope they're taking notes, because I didn't want to take my face off the screen because I'm a visual learner, but hopefully they have great notes, because we're going to implement some more good stuff for our clients.
Well, call me anytime. I'm always here to help.
All right. Love you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.